Pushkin. Today we have part 2 of our run of interviews with The National in celebration of their new album, First 2 Pages of Frankenstein. Last week, Broken Record producer Leah Rose talked to guitarist and composer Aaron Dessner about The National's interpersonal dynamics. Today, Leah picks up that conversation with the band's lead singer, Matt Berninger. Matt, whose fear and anxieties are often on full display in his songwriting, talks about overcoming a debilitating bout of depression in the period before he started writing songs for the new album. He also explains how the combination of weed and iced tea helped him spark his creativity, and why he hopes his songwriting impresses Phoebe Bridgers and Taylor Swift. This is Broken Record, liner notes for the digital age. I'm Justin Richmond. Here's Leah Rose with Matt Berninger.
I saw a video that you recorded, I guess it was like 2 years ago, for Amoeba Records.
Mm-hmm.
And you were picking through your favorite records.
Uh-huh.
And I started to sort of like listen to some of the to the records that you were showing, and it really helped me understand you as an artist and as a singer. And so I wanted to hear you just talk about some of these artists and see how specifically maybe their style helped you develop your own style.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I don't remember what I picked. So
yeah, I figure then maybe the list has changed at this point.
Yeah, but maybe I'll disown this whole list. But let's see. Yeah,
I know, right? But the first artist I wanted to ask you about was Tom Waits.
Uh-huh.
When did you start listening to Tom Waits?
I think freshman year of college. So that was 1990. I went to a couple of years at Miami University of Cincinnati. So I was like, it was my first year of college. So this is the first time I lived alone. And that's when I remember hearing, I think it was a compilation I heard him on first. And I think it was the song Big Black Mariah. And I don't remember what compilation it was on. And I fell in love with that song. And I went out and wanted to check out some records. But I remember all I could find was this one record, his early years record, and like a guy called Tom Waits and it said early years, and then there's this skinny white guy on the cover. I was like, this isn't the person who's singing Big Black Mariah on the thing I had heard. This has got to be somebody else. But I bought it anyway, and it was so I think I first got into his early years and then connected all the dots to like Bone Machine, and that was right before Bone Machine came out. I feel like that's when I can't remember exactly what all, but it was the fun journey, like hearing like semi contemporary or whatever 90s Tom Waits, and then going back and then starting with his really early, like those real acoustic demos and piano demos and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a big long time all through college. It feels like, and then I would come back to him and in different records I would go into deep dives in at different times, and Rain Dogs.
Yeah, that was the one that you picked out for this Amoeba.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I also remember another case. This is how stupid I was with music, and I didn't really do very deep dives. I thought that was him on the cover forever,
right?
I'd seen pictures of him and seen, but for some reason my brain made them the same face, same person. But
yeah,
I have a tattoo that says Martha from his song Martha, and which I remember listening to and crying to after breaking up with my first college girlfriend, or being broken up with. It was mutual. I don't remember. But I was driving back to Cincinnati from Oxford, Ohio, and realizing that was finally over. And then I transferred to a new school. Anyway, yeah, so Tom Waits was like right there in some of the most intense, early relationships. But then always like, my Corinne and I like just went through big, deep Tom Waits dives, over different times. And yeah, just this combination of goofiness and heartbreak and darkness, and spookiness. There's just something all about, and Nick Cave's another one who's like in that sort of world of like the alchemy of sincerity and silliness, that's so magical sometimes.
Do you hear them in your own performance when you sing? Like,
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I don't. I'm sure other people do more than I do. I can't. I don't know what I look like in the mirror. Everybody else. I mean, that's one of those things. But the other thing about what Tom Waits is, I was also really always really taken with and kind of inspired by his relationship with his wife Kathleen Brennan and how they write together. And they're, one of my favorite songs of his of all time is called Johnsburg, Illinois, and it's just a little portrait of a song about where she's from, and just about meeting her, and it's like the most delicate little sweet little love song, and yeah, so I think that was something I always found so romantic and so cool, that here's this guy who can write all these songs about heartbreak and all this stuff, but then also write them with the one he loves. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, that's beautiful. If you don't know a band, you don't know a singer, you don't know a song, how much patience do you have to sort of discover something new?
I'd like to think I have some like some patience, but it is a good question, because I do struggle a lot, I think, with like even like the playlist set that I'm on. I mean, I just like I have a harder time. I mean, I don't know. I was always a bit of a snob, and that's the thing about music. It's like sports. So it's like you hate most stuff. You want to talk about how much you hate. It's like with your friends. You're like, oh, I hate, and you define yourself by everything you hate.
Right.
Or you don't get. And I was definitely that contrarian. I mean, the Smiths were a band I loved so much just because none of my other friends had ever heard of them, and The Boy with a Thorn in His Side was definitely me, and so still have a little bit of that where I'm like, what? I don't get it, but I realize I'm totally wrong most of the time, and I'll get used to it, and I'll learn things about it. So it's hard to say. I might have been more of a snob when I was, in college than I am now, and now I actually really have a fun time studying like stuff that I don't listen to at all, but I'm like I did a recent sort of thing of just like, what's, all these different artists, their number one song, and trying to figure out what the tempo of their number one song was, And the first three artists I looked at, it was like 118, right? So
yeah, I've heard like 120 is kind of is that not, for a pop record, that might be kind of like the,
I know. Well, I'm like
common BPM.
I'm looking it up, and I'm like trying to like, well, what is it? What are people like? What is this? The pop world, like what are these? Because everybody talks about the formula, but then I did, but then it was a futile exercise, because then I listened to a bunch of other, and suddenly I found a bunch that were like around 150, and then I found a bunch that are like great songs that are around 90, but then it's also like it's all just in the groove and how you subdivide it, and it's like something that's like 90 is also 180, and depending on how you deliver it. And then so I kind of it didn't lead me anywhere, but it was kind of fun to dig into it. There's also, I read about all this stuff and how it's slowing down. Pop music is the average BPM used to be like in the 140s, and now it's down to, somebody's saying it's like down to like 108 is an average. So.
Oh, it's funny. I mean, I could definitely see that with hip hop, because hip hop has like gotten way like more like slow and syrupy. But 140 is super fast.
Yeah, but the truth is, it doesn't matter at all, because you could take any BPM and subdivide it in a way and put a swing to it, and how you would like, all of a sudden its momentum goes from sluggish to like, it's like mixing paint, it's like right. Which is fun to learn, it's like there's not a formula. There's not like there's not a formula for a good painting, there's just not.
Yeah.
So,
and also it seems like if you started with thinking about a formula, you're not going to end up in a good place.
No, but it's
because you're thinking more about like what the audience is going to like, rather than what you're going to put forth.
Right. I love to do like lately, just going in with a friend and just been like, we'll just like pick any song, and just kind of like, we picked By Your Side by Sade not long ago. And just like, what is it?
What a good song.
Like, why? Like, why is it so much better than all other songs at that same tempo with the same chords?
I think it's her. It's her voice. Yeah. It's her delivery.
It's a million things. Yeah. It's impossible to totally, obviously it's her, but it's like, but why is that song of hers stand out so much from even her catalog? It's like, there's so many people that have one song that just like is 10 times bigger than the rest of their entire catalog, or,
Right.
What is it? What is it about that thing? It is fun. It's just fun to like kind of try to see if you can decipher magic, if you can figure it out, but you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, but it is how everything you're listening to, every song that is like was them trying something, probably listening to a bunch of other things and trying to put together their combination. And occasionally the alchemy turns, it's black magic. It totally is. You still know,
Yeah. I was thinking about it from the perspective of a listener. Like if I sit down and listen to your new album, you sort of take for granted that like somebody actually created this from silence.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes you just assume like things always existed. Like
Uh-huh.
there was a time when Hey Jude didn't exist.
Right.
Like somebody wrote that and made that music.
My daughter and I were like driving around. We just drive around for hours just listening to songs. And she's in that,
awesome.
She's in that phase where she's just like, really, like, songs are magic to her now. I think it's like it's blooming, and she's 14, and so we were listening to the Wise Blood album a lot. We were listening to and she's learning that on guitar, but then we were like started listening to some Beatles and stuff, and just like, and Hey Jude, it was just like, oh my God, it starts out one way, and then at the end he's just a nut job at the end, just like riffing and just like do.
Yeah,
it's almost ridiculous at the end, and yeah, but the idea that like it started from nothing and then it's there,
Yeah, and like there was a time when that song did not exist.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny
it's crazy.
Totally.
So I'm just curious with the National, like with making this new album, like it sounds like before you started recording it, maybe you were going through some sort of like writer's block. That's the story that I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And that was somehow unlocked by you reading Frankenstein. Is that a true story?
It is true. I was in a really long writer's block. Like I'd never been. It was I couldn't write. I don't know it was caused by whatever, like self-loathing and depression and all that stuff. But yeah, I went into a phase where I just couldn't. I didn't want to write. I was sick of writing about myself, all that stuff. And I won't say there was any one thing that unlocked it. It was mostly just kind of reconnecting with the band and just kind of pushing through it in time. And then, and it started slowly coming back. But when it started coming back, one song that I was just like, the music came, it was new music that had just been sent. And I was kind of like, okay, like I just wanted to fresh words in my head. So sometimes I'll just go and grab literally anything, a magazine and anything, and just like look at words, just skim it, and just like until a word or something, just like whatever. It's trying to just like shake the trees and see if an animal falls out, right? And so, yeah, Frankenstein was the book I just randomly picked, and the words like tranquilize and ocean, and this whole stuff about like the poles. It all starts out in the Arctic. And so I started kind of just writing some imagery about that, but it was all, I think it was imagery that I was kind of using that imagery to write about my brain and write about my feeling lost and frozen and disconnected. And so the song is Your Mind Is Not Your Friend. But that phrase was just something that my wife Corinne had been saying, he had been echoing to me over the past year when I was in this phase. And I just like thought like, I was like, I don't know if I can ever do it. I don't know if I can write anymore. I don't know if I can go on stage anymore. I don't know if I can tour anymore. I don't know if I can do any of it anymore. I was feeling paralyzed by not just the writer's block, but all of it, just like everything was like, there was a phase I didn't want to write. I didn't want to listen to anything. I couldn't listen to anything. But when I started to break through a little bit, and those guys started sending me a bunch of news, like, oh, he's working again. The rest of the band started like, hurry up, like send him new stuff. He's plugged in again. And the music for Your Mind Is Not Your Friend was one of those kind of new ones that came, and I wrote it really fast. Yeah. And it was triggered, but I can't remember which song of the record. I know Once Upon a Poolside was one of them. That was like, okay, finally a song came. And I think it was when I just started writing directly about the things I was, my fears and everything.
Yeah. I'm curious what your wife says when you're in that place when she's trying to encourage you and you tell her like, I can't go back on stage, I can't write, this might be the end of it?
She was always like, that's totally fine. That is totally fine. And I was like, thank God, and I was like, it's not totally fine. You don't understand how not fine that is. It won't be good for me. It won't be good for anybody. It's bad if that. And she's like, nobody wants, and the band was like that too. Everybody was like, I wasn't getting any pressure from anybody except for myself.
So you didn't feel like let off the hook, like, okay, cool, now I can just like.
No, I was let off the hook. I've always been let off nobody, none of us will ever, nobody in the band, or I think none of our partners will ever, nobody's got anybody on a hook. We all do this because we want to do it. And when I couldn't do it, it wasn't that I wanted to be able to do it. I wanted to want to do it. I really wanted to want to do it, but I couldn't, and I couldn't. The idea of like getting on stage made me, almost sick. Like just so much anxiety. The idea of walking in, even go to the airport. There's a phase I just like. It wasn't like flying. I just did not want to go. I did not want to go out into the world or be. I wanted to stay unplugged, but I couldn't. So. And then I was terrified that shit. It's been unplugged for so long, and the machine has stopped for so long. I don't know if it's ever going to start again. And then it slowly started.
How did you feel when it started? Were you exhilarated? Did it feel like those feelings were kind of melting away?
It was slow. It wasn't. There were a couple of times. I think once upon a poolside, the guys in the band were like, "Nice one," like that one. Nobody wanted to make too much of a deal about it when I started to write again. And it wasn't like all of a sudden one day I woke up and I was like, on fire. It was very much, starting the fire back from rubbing sticks together. But eventually it warmed up and, And then I was writing a lot. And then when we were on tour, I was, Eucalyptus was written really fast, and New Order T-shirt was written really fast, and the Alcott was written really fast, and half the songs were written quickly, and then the other half, started and then froze, and then, it morphed into something later. Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't go back into the sunken place at a certain point. Were you out like once the song started to come?
No, but I got above it enough to sort of like to be able to breathe, so that when I sink back down, know that so I'm not in the lowest part of it, but I'm definitely not. I'm definitely aware that it's right there. The water's the water's always right about here, and sometimes you'll find yourself, and I just know, I know where I am. So I'm just more aware of the when it gets too deep to stand, and just to back away a little bit, whatever that is. It's just your brain. It's just your
totally. Does having the songs and having actual tangible creative output, does that sort of put any gas in your tank?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the thing that like when I feel like, I'm onto something. This could be great. This could be a beautiful song. And you always like those first feelings where you just get a even just a melody, or, I mean, those guys send me lots and lots of stuff. So I'm listening to a lot of music that like, if I could only do something, this could be incredible. But a lot of times I just can't. Or every time I do something, it's what's beautiful about it goes away. I can ruin it. It's like it's easy to ruin a beautiful white canvas, or and their canvases aren't clean. They come already with so much information, but sometimes I just cannot dance with one of their sketches or one of their bits of music. And this was like, I could hear when I couldn't write, I was like, I could hear that the music that I was trying to write to was good. It wasn't that. It was me. I was not able to sort of find my way into it. And that was what was the worst part about it. But yeah, when a couple of little bits and some songs and a little phrase or melody like started like, okay, well, that's a good enough. That's a good that's a good lily pad. That's one little Lego that I'm gonna put over here because I think I'm gonna use that little Lego. The rest is just a mess, and I don't want to even look at that pile. But at least that one little Lego, and then you find another Lego, and so yeah, the little tiny bits, like just a little lyric or a little melody or a little spot in a song somewhere, would be like, if I can build a song out from around that one little spark, then it might end up being the best song ever written. That's the thing about songs. They're like these 3.5 minute things that you could start and you have the sense of like, this might be one, like this could be a beautiful song. This could be Imagine. This could be, Sabotage. This could be, Hey Ya, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like when you start on something, like it could be one of the greatest songs ever written, and it could be Hey Jude, and it almost never is, but it could be. And that feeling is when a kid first learns the G chord for the first time, and they're like, holy shit, I can be Nirvana. I did once you get that first thread. So that's for me, like the songs, like just a little bit where like, that might end up being incredible if I can.
So the hope.
Yeah. Just
the hope part of it.
The belief that like, this could be a beautiful thing that makes you and lots of people feel great. And it could be on the radio, and, it could be, it's like just stuff that those simple things, you're like, those are such enough serotonin or endorphins get sent off into your bloodstream that just one of the little things a day can keep your head above water and then
keep you going.
But that's why like when months and weeks would go by and I didn't have one of those little things, I was getting none of them, nothing.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with more from Leah Rose and Matt Berninger. We're back with Matt Berninger and Leah Rose.
Do you have any wellness practices or anything that you do that is supposed to be good for you, whether it's like exercise or meditation or walks or...
Yeah, I used to ride on my bike and biking and walking, just, those things. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very well known that just moving your body is like just getting your body moving. Because when your body is moving, it's not you're trying to lose weight or get cardio. Just move your body, simply that those gears are at least doing that thing.
Right.
And so when those gears are doing that thing, your legs are moving and you're walking and you're breathing in and out. The part of your brain that gets anxiety and gets stress can sometimes just slow down and let that thing. And then suddenly the rest of the gears start. Yeah. It greases the wheels, It's like
totally.
And when you don't do those things, I think the worry part, the anxiety, all the other things that, all the other wheels in your brain that you need are important for survival and all that kind of stuff, but they just start spinning and everything else freezes, and then you just you're exhausted, but you can't sleep because your anxiety wheels are going. So yeah, I do those things, but I mean, honestly, when I was in that dark phase, I didn't want to. I mean, I'd ride my bike 2 blocks and I'd turn around and come home. I was couldn't ride my bike, couldn't watch TV, couldn't listen to any music, so. It was a sunken place for sure.
Sunken place. Has listening to music with your daughter influenced your writing at all, or the way that you're approaching music? Because it's almost like you get to hear music for the first time, through her ears. Only
that if you try to cater to anybody, you're gonna fail. Like her bullshit detector for just sounds like they're trying so hard to make me think they're cool, or like lines that are seem like great, all caps, great lyrics. She's like, it's a little too much, It's like, oh gosh, kids are way more sophisticated than you think, and you can't well, I mean, it's hard to say. It's I mean, I don't want to there's guilty pleasures, but still, her favorite stuff is more complex, or just the stuff that's blurry and weird, and it's why kids love certain scary children's books that are just like, you can't quite figure them out. Like, why do those resonate so much? It's always the stuff that's a little creepy, a little spooky, not setting it up, with an obvious, satisfying thing. Like something that's a little off and a little hard to figure out. Like, what does that mean? That's the stuff that sticks with her. And so
it's intriguing.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. I was like, oh yeah, you can never phone it in and try to like market to to a demographic or anything. You really have to be honest with yourself. Are you are you being interesting to yourself? Because even 12-year-olds can tell when you're pandering.
Do you play her music you're working on?
Yeah, I do.
What does she tend to tell you?
She's always excited. She's always, she does really like it. And funny, it's like, I'll play her stuff because occasionally she'll like not like something. And she's definitely not being nice, because she sees, Corinne and I talk about it all the time. So she sees how not precious I am. And she sees how both of us, tear apart TV shows and tear apart movies and like we're cruel to stuff. Just because that's what you do. It's
sounds like my house.
Yeah, it's like because when something's great, like it has to be celebrated, and like and the mystery of why something is great, you have to dig into it.
It really is easier to talk shit about something than describe how incredible something is.
Yeah, mostly when I'm writing, I'm just trying to avoid being terrible. Like you try to write something and it's terrible. It's like you try to sing a melody. It's like, it's terrible. It's like, wait, maybe something there. And then you find, and so it's always, for me, I step into the ugly, I just step out and it's always ugly, or it's very rarely a lyric or even a melody ever quite, it takes a lot of stepping in this way, that way, this way, and adjustment and listening over and over and throwing it away. Like when I write, I'll put in a sketch from those guys, and it's usually pretty simple. Sometimes it's not even, it's just one part, it's like, three or four chords like repeated. And I'll just start trying to sing to it, and I'll just track after track, layer after layer. I'll have 15 things that I'm just free associating and singing gobbledygook over. And then I'll go back and listen, and it's like, most of it's all terrible. And it's just like, that one little spot is like
the melody is terrible, or the words are terrible, the lyrics are terrible.
It's usually melody. I'm always like looking for melody, not worrying about words. And then later I will try to put words to it. And I kind of write separately. I'll write little bits and pieces, and then I'll see if it fits in a song. And then I'll listen to like what it sounds like I'm saying, and like go in that mode and just try to like write around what it kind of sounds like I'm saying and craft that. It's like I can go about it like all different ways, but almost never am I like, like step right in, like, that's feeling good, and like a song comes out. It's usually like, it's just always trying to avoid stuff that sounds cliche, or you're trying too hard, or you sound too bored, or you sound too energetic, or you like, it's just a million little dials,
But that seems good though, because at least it's the opposite of being paralyzed.
Yeah.
Like that's very active.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just trying and trying and trying and kind of like reiterating.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any sort of rituals or any things that you put yourself through to get into a space where it's easier to write? We had Rivers Cuomo on the show, and he talked about how he tried sort of like a deprivation technique where he would lock himself in a bathroom for like 2 days and like not eat, just to try and like bring about creativity that way. And that's obviously extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But is there anything that you do, like, even if it's like drink a little something, smoke something, and then you're in this space?
Yeah. I don't try to force it. When I was in that long phase where nothing has happened, I realized that like, oh God, if you can't just sit around, it's weird. It's like I couldn't turn it on, and I kept trying, and I guess if I hadn't keep trying to turn it on, it may have never come on. And so you do have to I did have to force it, I guess, eventually. I had to go to the studio. I had to go in the booth, and the microphone was on. I had to try put something down on record, and it wasn't until then till it really started happening. So I did like just getting in there and doing it is really the only thing sometimes when it's not happening at all that you can do. I don't know, just get in front of a microphone. But I will say I kind of just have to get into a comfortable place with it. And I will, most of the time I'm writing like on a couch or in bed with headphones on and like just listen to stuff and just trying to zone out. Yeah. And sometimes I'll smoke some weed. Sometimes I'll drink a little bit of wine sometimes like that. But I like it in the mode where, iced tea and weed works really great, and kind of in the middle of the day, in those weird moments, those kind of like
light up or downer.
Yeah. Just a light, I try to like just I don't write well when I'm like loaded. I mean, sometimes.
Have you ever recorded or written or recorded something when you're just like loaded and you probably think it sounds really, really good, or maybe it's really deep? Like, what is that experience like?
Oh my God, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm trying to, it's hard to, I used to, my favorite thing in the world to do was get a 6-pack and a pack of cigarettes and listen to records, and I have a notebook and just filling notebooks and just writing and listening and it was just like, it was great. Just what can I say? It was so much fun. But I don't do it like that anymore, just because it's like I feel like shit if I drink or smoke much stuff, And so yeah, it's a healthier thing, and I do. It's good to ride bike, and I'll smoke some weed and ride my bike and get in the mode. And if I get in the mode, I'll be pulling over every 2 minutes to to text myself a little thing, a little lyric or a little line. So that's kind of how it works. I like to get into kind of meditative rhythmic zone. I won't sit there and try to craft architect a song. I'll get a little bit I like, and then I'll sing it over and over and over again, and on a loop, and just kind of just practicing the rhythm of a practicing a swing. You just got to keep doing it until you get the kind of rhythm right and the tone of it right. And I'll do that. And that's probably because you're stoned and you're just kind of in that mode. And just like you can marvel at the same Lego for a while.
Totally.
But it's good. But you manage to kind of get that stone just right. So when you're going to put it into the put another brick in the wall, whatever, it's like you got to get that brick just right. And other times then you're like, okay, now I've filled this sketch is only 3 minutes long, but I've got 17 different melody options, right? It's like there's...
Wow. Are they all original melodies? Like, how do you know they don't come from...
I don't know.
You would hope they don't, but it seems like it was just sort of a natural thing to happen.
I don't know. You just it's a weird thing. There'd be you can start almost anywhere. It's like, I used to think okay, here's a guitar, here's some guitar chords and a beat and a rhythm. It's like, okay, well, there's only so many things I can do. I learned long ago, I was like, oh shit, you may feel like you're cornered in with something. It's like you can start anywhere on it. You can it's almost infinite how many. You can start on a note that rubs against whatever notes are there and play with that way. It's like you can put any kind of color onto any kind of canvas and try. Sometimes it's just it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel the personality of it. Like I always talk about the personality of songs. It's just like the personality doesn't feel like me. Or I didn't feel like I wasn't in that zone. I can't quite get, even though I like that personality, but it's just like that's not what I need now. That's not the character I need to talk to right now. That's what the songs are like. They're like a partner that you have to sort of dance with, and some people you are in rhythm with, and some people some sketches that Aaron sent me ended up on other people's records and are huge hits. It's like,
oh, like what's an example of that?
I don't know. There's a bunch of them. I think Cardigan and Willow and some other ones I had been taking a whack at. I had some ideas at one point. Those were in a batch that I was like, I couldn't do anything to. And I've listened to those. I've studied those songs. It's like, oh, look what she did with those songs.
Right. I was going to say, yeah, that must be interesting.
Yeah. Because I've got things like that are just really different melody and rhythm like places that like totally different songs. And it's like, that's one of those things that's really, really kind of fun about songs. And what we were talking about before is like, for example, when I go in and say like, okay, here's, By Your Side by Sade. I mean, you could learn it. First you learn it and then you get, okay, that's that song. But like to kind of like try do a song that's kind of in it's like really, really hard to match a zone of a thing, it's kind of, I mean, you can kind of match it, but it's like,
do you mean if you were to try and cover it or make something in a similar vein?
You can cover, but like even covering songs does not mean that song's going to have any of that magic that one did. It's weird. So I'm saying it's like, I'm never nervous about somebody thinking, oh, you stole that from like maybe
it's derivative or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But like that every single, I mean, everything that you hear is taken and recrafted. And it's not even like they try hard. It's like, it's kind of impossible to like, you change one little thing, everything starts to change, Yeah. So I was listening to the Miley Cyrus Flowers, and she even talks about it was like, it's her biggest song, I think, Flowers now. And it's like, she was sort of ripping off the Bruno Mars song or something.
Uptown Funk?
No, Be Your Man. I Want to Be Your Man or something like that. His biggest song. His like 1.5 billion, listens. And like, oh yeah, there's that little section right there. I mean, the lyrics are, flowers, rhyming flowers with hours and hand with sand are all there. She could definitely just like took all that and and she talks about it. That's the best way to approach it, because like it's the other ones, they're both giant, massive songs, and you're like, oh yeah, there's that little part where like, oh yeah, you can hear that note on that thing. There's that little fragment that definitely was taken from that. But I don't like that's how everything's made. Kind of like I think that's and so I think I do that probably more than I realize, but it's usually I often sing other people's lyrics to music because it's impossible. Often songs, tempo and time signature or chords or whatever, one lyrics it forces you to change everything around, right. And you change melody and everything changes. And then you find your own, and then those words that you started with somebody else just disappear, and your own things just sort of grow in the cracks of that you made around it. I don't know. It's the process is usually incredibly fun, really. And, that's why like in that phase where I just like, I was heartbroken over the loss of my love for it. That was such a bummer, to not, for even music not to give me that thrill or that serotonin or that endorphin or that little stuff.
We'll be back after another quick break with more from Leah Rose and Matt Berninger. We're back with the rest of Leah Rose's conversation with the National's Matt Berninger.
Is it true that there's sort of like an unwritten rule in the band that people don't directly ask you about the meaning behind your lyrics?
I didn't know. They don't. They almost never do. I don't think they ever do.
Does anyone ask you in your
fans do and journalists do and there's no rule, but no, the guys usually don't. Yeah, they don't. I'd have to think about when any of those guys ever asked me.
Do you care what they think about your lyrics?
Yeah, totally, of course. Yeah, I'm always trying to impress them.
Yeah, when you're writing, is there somebody in your mind who you're trying to impress or you're writing for?
Yeah, those guys in Corinne, and my daughter and the peers, Yeah, I wanna impress all the Walkmen. I want to impress Phoebe Bridgers. I want to, I want Taylor Swift to be as impressed by me as I am by her, And so, yeah, I want to be loved. I want to be, I want to be adored, and I want to be. But that's what's such a funny thing. It's like, if you try to write with that purpose, you're gonna sound desperate, So to be truly adored and to be for your favorite artist to actually really like what you're doing, you have to do weird shit that is little maybe uncomfortable and scary and maybe isn't gonna work. That's what's gonna impress the Walkman. That's what's gonna impress my wife, and that's what the band wants. Like our band doesn't necessarily want a hit if it's not real, if it doesn't feel like kind of real to us.
I was wondering with Corinne, like when she hears things that you've written, if you're writing about an old love or loving someone, missing somebody, is she ever like, who are you talking about?
No. When we first started dating, I was in the middle of writing all these songs, a bunch of songs, that she kind of like right away was kind of like so into all of it, like the writing of songs. So it's always been that way. And I've also been mostly writing about her, it's like, or the band or, but then they're like sometimes songs are not autobiographical, obviously, but they're sort of exercises in looking into a window or looking over the edge of something. And like Eucalyptus or whatever is obviously a song about splitting up things, and I think it's a kind of a funny song about like like all the things, like how do you split up your water subscription, but so you're writing about breaking up is a way of sort of like of confronting your fears, it's like, and like Once Upon a Poolside, and like a lot of those record is really like the fear of maybe the band being over, and it's very romantic. Generally there'll be bits and pieces of the songs that like, and it's usually much later, like after the record's out and after we're finally it's all finished, we're like,
yeah,
I listen to it again, and you know what, like it'll be way later, but in the middle of the creative process, if it's good, if it's like, oh, that's great, like that's all we ever talk about. Sometimes much later, once the art is finished, we'll be like, maybe we should talk about that a little bit, let's
Yeah, I was wondering, is there ever an instance where you write a lyric and it's the beginning of something that might almost be subconscious, but then it ultimately comes true later?
I mean, what you made me think of is maybe not what you're asking, but I do worry, and I did feel that maybe all of this writing of all these, making these big, these beautiful things out of uncomfortable feelings that I've been doing for 20 years. And, we're on this our 9th record or whatever. And plus all the other, like, so like writing hundreds of songs about some of this stuff. I was like, am I manifesting this character? Did I create this sad sack, because I write about it so much.
Do you think you did? Like, where did you land with that question?
It's in between. It's like, yes, but I also write all these songs because like I am that way and have that way. Yeah. And that's how I survive. That's how I feel better about life, is because I make a little something kind of semi-enjoyable and kind of fun and beautiful and moving out of this ugly feeling, That's what all great love songs are, it's like sad, ugly, uncomfortable feelings to melody, and that's all the best love songs are kind of crushing, and so I do think I'm a much healthier person having written all this stuff than have not. I do know that like other people, like listening to, like we talked about, like the artists that we've been talking about, including, like, for example, go back to Tom Waits. I know that Tom Waits made me mentally healthier, made me a happier person, made me like myself more. And so did Nick Cave. So all my favorite artists, make me like myself a little bit more, because they're great about writing about what they hate about themselves, and I can identify with that. And I was like, if that person hates themselves, like can say that terrible thing about themselves and make it so beautiful, then I'm like, oh, maybe I can make something out of all the things I hate about myself. So yeah, but then at a certain time, the point of like all these years, especially getting on stage and performing it and doing it, and then And then having like a fan base, which is like incredible. Like I have fans of songs I wrote. It's like it's. Sometimes you take for granted how like most people don't have fans of songs that they wrote. It's like an incredible thing. Strangers that you've never met like these songs that you wrote, these things you wrote about your own feelings. Like that's so lucky. And then when people like say how much they get out of it, and you see people having these moments, and people write to you and tell you like this, and I get a lot of letters that people say like this stuff actually helped me through a really rough time. And I'm like, it helped me through a rough time. And then I think of all the other artists that helped me, that their records helped me. And I'm like, oh God, yeah, this is all really good. Like this is all a really good thing to do.
Yeah, you're like in service to other people.
A little bit, but mostly myself. Mostly like I'm doing it for my own mental health mostly, but it is working for other people too. It's helping other people too, for sure, and that's really good. But then it's like then night after night after night after night after night after night, and touring and being all that stuff, and then you get weird.
Yeah.
You just get weird. It can.
How does it get weird? I heard you talk about that being on tour can get weird, and I'm extremely curious about what you mean about that.
Honestly, I think it's just mostly exhaustion, but then I think it's the turning on and then turning off. Yeah. It's like for me to get into show mode, to turn on, to do that for like a 2-hour, give or take performance. Like it doesn't come naturally. It's not like I'm like, I can't wait to get out there. It's like, it's bracing. It's on my mind all day. It's on my mind. It's like every day is sort of like, you're doing like a mini wedding. You got to get ready. Like, you're just trying to like, get ready for it. And you have to entertain, and you don't know, you might wake up in a great mood, but then like something like you might, by 7:30, half an hour before you're supposed to go on stage, you just might just be in the most miserable place for whatever reason.
And you're the front man, so it's like all eyes are on you. You can't kind of just like play the back and play bass.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like you give it your all. You go super hard.
Yeah, and I won't complain. It's cool. I mean, like I it's a funny thing. I'm often miserable in the spotlight, but I'm usually like no over here, it's like no, don't look at me, like
this is my best side.
Yeah, I'm definitely a don't look at me type of person. But and I have to get in a zone, and sometimes you drink too much, and sometimes we don't have any really terrible habits, but like how many times I've been like, I know what cocaine is for. It's like, like this is why people do cocaine, because they got to go do that.
You can flip the switch.
Yeah, you can flip it, but I don't do that. But I do. I'll have a few glasses of wine. Sometimes I won't. But those shows are always like really, honestly, the shows where I won't have any. I was like, oh, those are all. If I don't drink anything, then I'm too inside my head. I think 1 or 2 glasses of wine is probably the best.
Yeah. When I was talking to Aaron, he said something at some point about, he's like, yeah, sometimes I think like, I can't believe I'm 46 and I'm still in a band. Uh-huh. It's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Do you have any similar feelings like that?
Yeah. No, we always do. I mean, like we always listen, we play songs. We're like, does this sound like we're all trying to like wear skinny jeans? It's like, and even though many of us still wear skinny jeans, but there is that the whole pandering thing is like we just can't do it. Like we cannot. Like I can only write a certain way, and I mean to answer your question is like we're often like feeling like we don't want to seem like we're faking it, or being on stage singing a song that you don't really kind of believe or don't or doesn't feel good. So I think if we started making songs that we felt were like, we're kind of just putting out records to service something, a fan base or whatever.
Right.
Like it definitely wouldn't be enough. So obviously we're always asking, it's like, are these songs worth putting out? Is it? I know that like it's time for another record, or it's time for another tour. According to the healthy economy of a functioning band and all that kind of stuff. But that has never been the thing that's ever ever gotten us anywhere in terms of motivating us to make songs. And it's just the songs. It's like if a song we like it and we're like, I like that's a good song. That's a beautiful song. That's why we're still a band.
Like that's enough to.
Yeah, I won't be able to be the kind of performer like Mick Jagger is, because and I think he's genuine, through and through. He is but I think my showman thing is like I think has to age and evolve with me. Meaning, I used to lose my mind. I used to smash stuff. I used to if I would throw full bottles of wine 30 feet in the air, above the band, above me, and in controlled ways where I would let it smash to pieces right around me, wow. and going out into the crowd and
you go deep, out into the crowd. Yeah.
And I do love that. I might still do that, but if I feel like I'm doing that because of it's part of the show, I want to kill myself, it's like,
or because it's expected or it's your shtick or something.
Yeah. And all that stuff kind of becomes a shtick. And I think some of the self-disgust was I was disgusted with my own shtick, writing about myself, or the idea of doing that show and going out into the crowd when I was that is not the person I am right now. I can't go sing these songs and go into a crowd and entertain people. I can't watch TV, I can barely, I'm nonverbal. I can't be an entertainer, So some shows I have to sort of just embrace wherever I am, and so that's not always a great show. I don't know, maybe it is. I like watching uncomfortable performers do nothing, I find that riveting. But so there is a little bit of that of if it feels like we're going through the motions and trying to put on the show, if it feels like Phantom of the Opera, after a while, it's a bummer.
I know that female artists have to deal with this a lot, but when you've gone out into the crowd like that, has anything sketchy ever happened to you?
Yeah. It gets weird, and it gets weird out there. That's why I'm I don't know if I like doing this anymore. Mostly it's almost all love, and people just that's the other thing. It's people just crush together and sing, and you're singing their hearts out, and it's people having an incredible moment, and I am too. But then sometimes. But it gets scary, it gets scary when just that many bodies and the crush of people. So that, and then obviously there's a lot of people that just want to hang on you and just want to spend spend the whole time with you. And I was you know what, this is, I'm doing this kind of for me and for lots of people. It's not just for you to hang on me and follow me. I don't like when people follow me the whole time and try to and people often try to pick me up because. And I never let that. I don't. Crowd surfing is not. I hate it. It's
because they can drop you. You can just fall into a hole.
It's not that. It's just always. It just looks so stupid to me. It's just, when you're up there trying to sing and you're being carried. I mean, I know. I've done it a bunch of times. It is it's a bucket list. You got to do it. You feel like such an idiot. I don't know. I mean, certain bands. If I were Blink-182 or whatever, yeah, hell yeah. But not. I can't. It just doesn't feel right. But anyway, so all that kind of stuff is you just have to constantly try to stay yourself, and that changes. That's the thing. It changes. If you're trying to stay true to who you were when you were 30 or 25 or 19 or whatever, you're kind of gonna look kind of silly, Then again, will I even know that I look silly?
I know, right?
Probably not. I mean,
well, your daughter will tell you.
I'm praying she does. So far she's been pretty kind. She's she has seen some videos that we've attempted to make some videos, and she's she's yeah.
Really?
Yeah, thing like that. She says, she's you look like you're trying to be all that, it's
yeah.
And I'm she's it ruins this.
It's a fair criticism.
Yeah, and it ruins. She's it kind of ruins the song for me. I was you got to kill that video,
Hey.
I know, that's good. Thank God for her.
How do you feel about the Sad Dad music label? How does that sit with you?
I don't care. I mean, it's appropriate. I cannot. I mean, yeah. It definitely, like, it's, I totally understand it. And I think I embrace it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels fine. I mean, it's not how I would define myself, entirely, but yeah, that's a little part of me. That's a little part of everybody. I think, or something. I think the funny thing is, like my daughter, I think, like, loves the Sad Dads. Like, we sell hoodies that say Sad Dads on it. And it's like her, she's into it. She loves, like it's cool. And for some reason, I think it's cool to be a sad dad. But I also, I can see why other artists that get the sad, and mostly it's young women, get the sort of the sad label, and how that can be infuriating. And so, but for me, I'm like, I've earned it. Yeah,
Right.
I cannot say that does not fit.
Well, I read that Pitchfork wrote, "The National aren't dad rock as much as they're men's magazine rock."
Oh, that's
kind of more sleek.
No, that one's hurtful.
That's hurtful? I feel like that's sleek. That's like GQ rock.
I think of, like, Maxim when you say men's magazines. I think of, like, Details and I don't think even GQ is it. I guess GQ rock. I don't think we're GQ rock either. That'd be cool. I wish we were GQ rock. I am doing an interview with GQ, I think, soon. So
have you done many interviews yet for this album?
No, not that many. I'm doing a lot less. Than usual. A lot of it is because it's like, the stuff on this record is a little bit harder to talk about, I think, maybe. And I kind of was like, it's kind of all there on the record, So, So, like, getting into it a little bit, digging further into it feels a little icky. But I know that's part of it, and I'm happy to do it. And so, but this has been delightful, though. There's not been.
Yeah, I appreciate so much you taking the time and being so thoughtful. And best wishes with the album. It's awesome.
Thank you.
And sounds like you have another album already ready.
Maybe we always say that, but not unless it's got to be great. But so if it's not, it might take some time. But thanks for doing this. This seems cool.
Thanks to Matt Berninger for breaking down his songwriting process with Leah. You can hear all of our favorite national songs on a playlist at brokenrecordpodcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Broken Record. Broken Record is produced with help from Leah Rose, Jason Gambrell, Ben Tolliday, and Eric Sandler. Our editor is Sophie Crane. Broken Record is a production of Pushkin Industries. And if you like the show, please remember to share, rate, and review us on your podcast app. Our theme music's by Kenny Beats. I'm Justin Richmond. Consider subscribing to Pushkin Plus. Pushkin Plus is a podcast subscription that offers bonus content and uninterrupted ad-free listening for $4.99 a month. Look for Pushkin Plus on Apple Podcast subscriptions. And if you like the show, please remember to share, rate, and review us on your podcast app. Our theme music's by Kenny Beats. I'm Justin Richmond.